guys. Oh my God, what time is it? Is it really? What? The game just started. Oh, right. Think they'll blow it again? I do too. I just think they're going to do it all year. We're talking about the 49ers. Many of you want to see the game. It's showing in my office right now. I did a wedding yesterday afternoon, and it was a rather important wedding for many of the center here. Pat Knox, who's been in our bookstore for many, many years, was I love your wedding services. You just go right to the heart of things, don't you? This morning I'd like to go right to the heart of things. I'm a Sagittarian, and Sagittarians always go to the heart of things. They don't know any way out. They die younger, I think, because it takes a little more energy. That's probably not the truth, but I wanted to talk to you and tell you all, you know, I really care a lot about you. I care a lot about your lives. I'm beginning to realize as I get older, approaching 65, you know, that I'm a pretty highly opinionated woman. And I guess I must have something inside of me that gives me the right to be so opinionated. And one of my opinions is that I really think I know how people ought to live. And I think that has to do with New England, because I think all New Englanders think they know better than anybody else how to live and be. And don't nod your head, just cut it out. But I think that's it. Now, with all of that aside, I wanted to warn you. So you ready? When I look at an awful lot of us, and frankly, I'll tell you, this is not how I live. One of my great senses about us is how aimless we are. Get that? How many of us wander about the earth's surface with no intention and no direction. It's as if we haven't got a heart in anything. And heart's a big word for me right now. We all know I wrote my dissertation on the prayer of the heart. But when I use the word heart, I'm not talking about the physical heart. I'm not talking about the solar plexus. I'm talking about the intention for your life. I'm talking about where are you going? And I want to shake you up. Where are you going? What are you really doing here? If you don't have intention, and I can give it to you, I can give you an intention. You were all given intention, so you can't walk out this morning and say, you know, I have no intention, I have no meaning for my life. You do. You were given it. It was born in the seed of you before you even put on a body. And the intention is for you to make contact with God. And God is not a he, as in that patriarchal song we just heard. God is an essence, a being, an energy, a life force that's living within each one of you, and it has a desire, it has a hunger. But most of us walk around as if we had no contact with that at all. We are aimless. We have no intention. We have no direction. Another way that we seem to meander here about Earth is it seems as if all of us have a real attachment to death. Don't you ever get that sense about yourself that you're really functioning as if you were going to die? And you do it one of two ways. You're either filled with fear that you won't get it all in, or you're trying to do so much to be sure you do get it in before you do die. That's the last basic essence of you, you know. It's the last basic thought of you. And I'm not saying you blandly out there. I'm saying us, humans, is that fear of death. So we pile it all in and we go very fast with full speed ahead as if we didn't have another lifetime to experience it, as if there was some urgency to get it. And even our advertising media does it for us, you know. The beer ads, I think. You can have it all. Get it all in now. It's the only life you have to live. I'm really surprised that so many of us function in some kind of undefined, wandering territory, as if we're walking in some wooded area and we don't know where we're going. Do you identify with that at all? Do you feel that about yourself at times? Like, why am I starting this new business? Why am I building this house? Why am I doing this job? And then when great decisions come up into our life as to where we will go, as to whether we will give up habits, as to whether we will redefine ourselves, refine ourselves, we look like helpless, hapless victims of life. Who, me? You know, me, I should refine, I should define, I should synthesize, I should go somewhere, I'm important. And then you sit here Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, you take class after class after class, all of the kind of wish-washes around the same issue. You are important. Don't you know it? Didn't you get it yet? You know, you wandered into a unity center to have that spark sown inside of you that you are important and your life has meaning. You don't have to know what the meaning is, but your life has meaning. Wake up your heart, spark to it, feel it, and respond. I had an apple before I came down. I'm still chewing it in my throat. Sometimes it's almonds, you know. There's another part of this that really surprises me when I talk with people and watch them. The opinionated New Englander that I am, who thinks I know how we should all live. And this comes directly from that. I won't deny it. You can only listen and see if this strikes you. And probably it strikes you most if you're bucking me best. But there's another one that surprises me. It is how quickly we forget and how long we have forgotten our intimate relationship with God. And I've been harping on it this fall. It's out there in last week's lesson. I've been harping on how we've forgotten that we are Indians walking in the woods on moccasin feet, and we must listen and walk so lightly and so carefully that we not cause a twig to break that will startle a creature, for we all must listen deeply, and that's the way we must walk. And you can't listen if you're loaded with booze, and if you're filling your body with drugs, and if you're mistreating it with intakes of any kind, and you can't walk quietly if you're not meditating, and if you're not prayerful, and if you're not refining your relationships. And if you can't do that, then you are not with the intention that's guiding you. You can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. And I have no interest in morality or ethics. I just know about spirituality, and I'm tired of the ignorance and the joke we play upon ourselves. We wander around saying, I'm the spiritual being, and then we clobber ourselves and have no way of making contact with our identity. I am surprised at how few of us are using our healing juices. You are all healers sitting here in this room. When somebody is ill, it is our responsibility to be with them in a healing consciousness. And if that consciousness is not prepared, you can't do it. Do you want to walk out yet? I am so surprised at us that we have really forgotten our design for love, to be loving beings and to be without ego. I'm surprised at me. I'm not guilty, but I'm surprised. I had somebody share with me last evening about a friend of theirs who had treated somebody rudely in front of them. And I said, well, are you going back? And they said, no, I don't think I can. I'm too angry. And I said, you know, it's you who must bring forth the love to go back, not them. And that's always the truth. It's always the truth. It's always always the truth. How quickly we forget the yeast of transcendence that's running in our spiritual blood. Did you know that there is a yeast in your spiritual blood that's transcendent, and it's hungering to rise, to lift you always? Hungering. I'd like to read to you from Matthew 5, verses 13 through 19. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trodden underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Nor do men light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. I think you should also shine it on women, but it just says men in the Bible. Then Jesus goes on, and this is the title of my lesson, think not that I have come to abolish the law and the prophets. I have come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until it is all accomplished. Whoever then relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so, shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but he who does them and teaches them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. You all know the one about the light. You all know the one about the salt. But let me reread these words. Think not that I've come to abolish the law. I've come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Second, he says, for I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, not an iota or a dot will pass from the law. And then he says, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments shall be less in the kingdom of heaven, and he or she who does them and teaches them shall increase in the kingdom of heaven. I'd like to go to the salt of the earth one and the light of the world one. I so wish I could give you that sense of salt and light. I can't. I can only teach it. That's the difficulty of being a teacher. You can't climb in and awaken. You can knock on the heart. You can give the incredible urgency. You can give the testimony. You can describe the scene, but you can't break down the crust. Jesus is trying to break down the crust here. He's saying, remember your salt. You know what we've done with that salt of the earth statement? We've said, you who are the salt of the earth are the really good guys. But that isn't really what it meant initially. That's the common meaning. What its real meaning is, in its original sense, was it means the essence of things. The essence of things. You know what the essence of things is? Just imagine for a minute, I've used this before, that you have a seed pod. Okay, the outer crust. Inside that seed is the essence. Imagine your body for a moment, and just remember with me that inside that body of you, in the soul of you, in your origin of you that's lived forever, is the essence. That's where the salt lies. And the beauty of the salt symbolism is if you place just a little bit of salt in soup, the whole soup picks it up. So Jesus is reminding those who are listening here, and this is a part of the Sermon on the Mount. He's saying, you're the salt of the earth. You are the salt. You are the essence of all things. The life force lives within you. Give it a chance to express. Give it a chance to rise. I can say all these wonderful words about you are healers. I can say you are meant for love and egolessness. I can say you are intended for all possibility. But what he's screaming for, what I'm supporting in that scream this morning is to remember you are the essence. You are the salt. You have effect. Make contact with it. Then when he talks about you are also the light of the world, He's saying the same thing. Light means the essence of things. Light, mystically, means if you hold up this candle and you bring it into any place, it shines. It isn't necessary that you get rid of darkness. Remember that principle. You don't have to get rid of darkness with a candle. You just bring the candle into everywhere you are, and you remember you are the light. That is the only thing that's required spiritually in life. Remember you are the salt. That's an analogy. Remember that you are the light. That is an analogy. You don't have to change the political order of things. You do not have to move mountains. You do not have to alter families. You do not have to change businesses. You don't have to get in there with political schemes and scams. You only have to be the essence. You don't need words. Words are finally cacophonous and dualistic, and they confuse. You don't even need a physical body mystically. Just the light. Just the salt. And dedicate your life to it. You don't have to look like a saint. You can still be angry, abominable, disgusting, gorgeous, charming, beautiful, lavish, elegant, nasty, stinky. That's where we've gotten all off on this religion thing. We thought, oh, the personality is going to change. I'm going to walk like a saint. I don't know how saints walk. And I want you to know I consider myself, and I consider you too, a saint. Because I know you are the light. Now then Jesus goes on to give some wonderful cautions. You know, Jesus was not Mama Earth. He was a fine psychiatrist, psychologist, mystic, metaphysician. He incorporated it all. And he wasn't easygoing about this stuff because he warns people. He says, you need to be careful. And his warning is this. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its taste, how shall its saltness be restored? And then with the light, he says, if you put your light under a bushel, then it will gradually lose its strength. He is clearly saying here that we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful that we don't suck the essence from the salt or let the candle flicker. Now look at your life for a minute. Just look at your life for a minute and look at what we do. It's the most natural thing we do, it's the most startling thing we do, and it's the most stupid thing we do. Do you know what we do? We suck the salt dry and we put our lights under bushels. And the way that we do it is we get lost in the external. Now, how many more times do you want to come to church on a Sunday morning and have me stand here and say the same dumb thing in some new way and remind you again that the way you give it away is by going out to the externals? How do you go out to the externals? Well, have you listened to yourself lately? Have you noticed yourself when you have a problem? What do? You jump outside of yourself and you start chitter-chattering about it, don't you? Don't you chitter-chatter about your brain? Don't you go to some support group to help you with it? Don't you find yourself saying, well, they do this and they do that, and my kids, they do this, and don't you find your eyes always looking outside, saying, won't you please help me? Won't you please give me an answer? Come on. Some response. Isn't that what we do? And don't we become tintillated when we think, oh, well, maybe I can go to a new place? Don't you feel tintillated about that? And don't you feel tintillated when somebody looks at you with new sexual energy? You say, oh. It's been so long, you know? You know what that all is. And maybe I know this is true. It's reaching for a cigarette, for a drink, and I know I may push this food thing, but it's also very clear to me. It's that hunger for something outside. You don't have to do a thing about any of those issues except to wake up and become aware. The salt is losing its savor, and the minute it loses its savor, the minute the light begins to be put under a bushel, it starts going creep, 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 outside, outside, outside. Complaints, gossip, confusion, explanations, ridicule, them, 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 them. I watched Cindy yesterday in my backyard. We put in lawn. We've had stones in our backyard for some time, and we put in new lawn. And we discovered a fish pond out there. It's really wonderful. Been all covered over with little rocks. And we put water in the fish pond and have put some goldfish in there. And my dog, Cindy, is a beagle. And she just loves, she's 12 years old, but she'll go and she'll sit out there at that pond by the hour watching those fish. I love to watch her. Because I see dedication, devotion, and intention without movement. But you know what she does most of the time to get the fish? She goes into the pond and disturbs the stuff so that she can't see them. Look at yourself. Every so often she gets very bright, and she gets out of the pond and sits on the side and watches. And gradually she can see the goldfish. Jesus says, as he moves on with this, he's given out the warning, and he says, we must abolish the law and the prophets. He says, I have not come to abolish the law and the prophets. I've come to fulfill the law. He says, not until heaven and earth pass away will anything be clear. And I'd like to say it in these ways. I am convinced that most of us live in fear and constriction, when fulfillment of the law simply means having the freedom to act and respond in the midst of fear. You know, I'm not a person who's out to get rid of fear. Just that you might have the feeling of freedom so that you can function in the midst of fear. But most of us live in the old law that we won't abolish. Rather, we'll raise it up, not to get rid of fear, but to be able to function freely in the midst of our fears. You can't remove fear from the universe. But you can find a way to be free in the midst of that fear, so that you're free to function with your money as you wish to, so that you're free to function in relationships honestly and openly as we are required to do, so that we are free to function within our physical bodies and have some sense that we can do something about them. Those are the big issues: money, relationships, and physical body. So when Jesus says, I've come not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, he's saying, we're not going to get rid of the old ways. What we must do is find a way to function within the old laws, but freely. You can do that. And the way you do it is by keeping contact with the salt, keeping contact with the light. Then he goes on to say, not until we get free from duality. He says, not until we get rid of heaven and earth can we move into fulfillment of the law. You see, most of us are functioning here on earth thinking that there is a right and there is a wrong. We're functioning here on earth thinking that there are the good guys and the bad guys. Most of us are functioning here on earth thinking that we're separate from God. My whole meditation this morning was designed for you to realize you can't be separate from God. There is nothing out of order within you. Honor that. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? There's no way for you to be separate from God. Even though you've been taught and taught and taught it by your fundamentalist churches and your traditionalist churches and your mother and your father, you cannot be separate from God. And then finally he says the commandments must be kept. He says only if you relax on the commandments do you lose contact with the salt and the light. You know what I think he means by that? I think he's going back to that wonderful commandment that he gave when he said you have to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. I think he's talking about intention. Do you know what intention is, folks? It's what I started out with this morning. Where are you going with your life? What's your aim? Where's your attention? Intention and attention are the same thing. Intention is merely the attention directed within. Jesus is saying you can fulfill your dreams if your attention and your intention is held within. That's what he's saying. But if you let it go outside, the salt's going to lose its savor. The light's going to become dim. Bring the attention within. Bring the intention within. When you find yourself sneaking out, slipping outside, bring the attention within. See, that's what Cindy learns when she goes into the pond. She brings her intention within when she steps out of the pond and merely beholds. Did you know that you can be healed physically if you hold your intention within? That's where the healing juices come from. Did you know that you can create whole new relationships as long as you both hold the intention within? When you find your life is vague and a vague discomfort begins to show inside of you, you know what that's saying? It's saying the salt is losing its savor, the light is dimming. When you find that your thoughts are going too fast and your mouth is going too fast also, that's an indication that the salt is losing its savor, the light is dimming. When you find yourself with mild anxiety that starts filling your veins and it's going too fast in your system, that's saying the salt is losing its savor, the light is dimming within. When you find that the waters are muddied in the pond, it's saying the salt is losing its savor, the light is dimming. And it's asking for you to get your intention straight, to bring your design within, to pay attention, to stop walking like an Indian with moccasined feet and listening very carefully for the guidance that's resting inside each one of us. Everybody here in this room is the salt of the earth. Everybody here in this room is the light of the world. Everybody the earth over is. The request is to get the intention straight and to rekindle the light, to bring savor back to the salt. I'd like to read in closing again from Hamish Jolt. Have mercy upon us. Have mercy upon our efforts, that we before Thee in love and in faith, righteousness and humility may follow Thee with self-denial, steadfastness, and courage, and meet Thee in the silence. Give us a pure heart that we may see Thee, a humble heart that we may hear Thee, a heart of love that we may serve Thee, a heart of faith that we may live Thee. Thou whom I do not know, but whose I am. Thou whom I do not comprehend, but who hast dedicated me to my fate. Thou. Could we be quiet together? And for the sake of time, I'm going to bring the service to a close now with a quieting time. And Brenda, if we could have some organ music. She isn't there? Yeah, okay. Well, let's just go within. Bring your attention inside. Bring it into the thou. Bring it it into the memory of who you are. Bring it into the memory of who you are designed to be. And bring it away from the externals. Bring it away from tomorrow and out of the past. Practice bringing the intention to the salt, to the light. Be the little dog sitting on the outside of the pool, looking to the within, toward the movement of the Lord, which is that goldfish. Make a commitment this morning to dedicate your life to this. And let it grow within you. How about making a commitment this morning to live your life this way? Once again, once again, once again. It's like marriage, you do it every day. What about giving up your future to this? What about giving up your school life to this? What about giving up your nagging teachers to this? And your nagging mother and your nagging father and your nagging children and your nagging finances? Commit, commit, commit. Savor the salt. Light the light. Keep it kindled. And the next time you find you want to blame, come here. The next time you want to explain, come here. The next time you want to mince words or snarl, come here. The next time you want to dump on yourself because you didn't do what's being suggested right this minute, come here. Father, Mother God, I commit to you and you alone. And I invite your support for the measured path ahead. Father, Mother God, I commit to you and you alone. Invite your support for the measured path ahead. Maybe when you pick up that package of seeds today, as you leave the center and take it home and plant in the soil, you let it be a little ritual of, as you nurture that soil, you remember to nurture the essence in you. And now would you please let rise from within